day, guys and gals, and to our non-binary pals. So for today, we're going to do a review of Heroes of WakeSong. Heroes of WakeSong is a Dungeons and Dragons 5th Ed supplement based in the world of WakeSong. While denizens of WakeSong don't actually call their world WakeSong, uh, this is just the name that the author named his world because the world is loosely based on non-European cultures, mainly Asian, South American, and African cultures. So the author, being a white heterosexual male, in the introduction, apologized for any accusations of cultural appropriation. But personally, I'm not really big. I'm not really big on cultural appropriation. I personally believe culture isn't owned, but culture is something you just feel belonging to. So it's not like culture is an intellectual property where you can sue somebody for using elements of your culture. But any kind of cultural appropriation just has to be done with respect. And when done with respect, then there is really no problem with any kind of cultural appropriation. Culture can be appreciated by anyone, any race, gender, religious affiliation, political inclination. Culture is open to everyone. Culture should be open to everyone. And everyone has the capacity to appreciate different cultures. It's not an exclusive thing that's tied down by gender, by race, or by religion. And I think this supplement made is a very good example of what I'm talking about. That even if this book is primarily targeted towards the North American or European market, it's actually a book or supplement that appreciates cultures outside of those two cultures, which admittedly dominate the world of tabletop RPGs. Right at the introduction of Heroes of WakeSong, which is about the characters you will find in the world of WakeSong, you are immediately hit with an image of a mountain far away, which suspiciously looks like Mount Mayon in the Philippines, and a person riding a carabao or a water buffalo. You can't go more Southeast Asia or Philippines than an image like that. So immediately we're introduced, and right there, Southeast Asia. You see what looks to be Mount Mayon and a guy riding a carabao. So as far as world building is concerned, I think the author did a wonderful job of creating a new and wonderful world for players of Dungeons and Dragons to explore, and at the same time introduce the players to a probably a familiar world if you're from the East, or an unfamiliar world if you're from the West. So immediately, the first thing that they talk about is the city-state of Bukana. Bukana is the word. It's a word actually for opening or gateway, which is or a door, which is a word that's used in both Philippines and Indonesia, and I think also Malaysia, because those three countries share a lot of words in their respective languages. So Bukana is based in an archipelagic region made up of volcanic islands. Really, it's starting to sound familiar for somebody like me who's in the Philippines. and it's a cultural melting pot, and it's where people in the region trade. And this is exactly what happened to the Philippines, being an archipelagic country right in the middle of Southeast Asia, where a lot of people came to trade. So the Chinese, people from the south, they all met in the middle of the the sea, and then they did a lot of trading. And for the most part, most of the relationship between these countries when they were trading was really very friendly. There was very little hostility amongst the different cultures, and this is exactly what Bukana is for the world of WakeSong. And of course, this archipelagic region is described in WakeSong as having very very many ethno-linguistic cultures surrounding it, which is pretty much how the Philippines is, where pre-colonial Philippines had a lot of small states, and most of them actually behaved, independently. So there was no country called the Philippines. People were calling themselves based depending on what dialect or language they were speaking in different areas. So it was a very diverse culture back then in the Philippines. So basically, the center of the WakeSong world, as described here in the first book, is basically the Philippines. So, and the world, WakeSong world, is populated by, of course, humans, and of course the Encantos. The Encantos is the fairy folk, and there's several types of them, and I'm sure more will be introduced as more books come out in this world. But so far, there's going to be the elves and the dwarves. They're going to be a little bit different compared to the what we're used to with elves and dwarves in the Dungeons and Dragons. And of course, there's going to be the Minotaur, who actually kind of look like water buffaloes, uh, and also the mouse deer people. So that will be interesting, and also the Pongo, which are the monkey people, which are the some of them look like orangutans, and some of them look like smaller monkeys, which are prevalent in the Southeast Asian jungles. So from Bukana, they start exploring the other parts of the world. And as you explore the other parts of the world, you're introduced to countries, nations, or cultures in WakeSong that sort of resembles cultures from continental Asia, like China and Korea, and also from India. And then you also are introduced to mm, cultures that kind of are inspired by South America, and also cultures based on the continent of Africa. So really, you'll see the pattern here that the world of WakeSong is actually more focused on non-Eurocentric imagery, which is actually a more accurate depiction of what the world actually is, because population-wise, it's the other cultures that are actually dominating the numbers when it comes to the number of people belonging to those cultures. But it just so happens that a lot of popular global culture is coming from the West and heavily influenced from the West. So it's very Eurocentric or white-centric. So I really appreciate people who exert effort to explore cultures outside of those cultures that are already dominating the world, the popular culture, and as a result, also tabletop RPG universes. So this is a welcome addition to the rich world of tabletop RPGs. Now let's dive into some of the character subclasses described in the book Heroes of WakeSong. Now, first would be the Barbarian. The Barbarian in Heroes of WakeSong isn't described as the stereotypical dumb brute or So in Heroes of WakeSong, the Barbarian is a spiritual warrior that's deeply rooted in nature, and so we do away with the stereotype dumb brute barbarian. And the next one I would like to talk about are the bards, which in traditional Dungeons and Dragons are basically singers who carry around a musical instrument. But in Heroes of WakeSong, the bards here are much more than just characters who sing and buff the party or fight with the party. They're actually the healers, as because the bards are like the manghihilot or manggagamot, and their craft is not really just sound, just about sound or music, but it's also about dance. So this is something that's very familiar to I guess natives in Southeast Asia and maybe in continental Asia, where healers actually dance around the people they're trying to heal. So it's actually I really loved this twist on bards. And as far as paladins are concerned, in Heroes of WakeSong, they're not so much dedicated to a deity, but they're more they behave more like knights and adhere to a strict code. So as an example, in the book, they didn't use the samurai, but I can easily imagine a nation in WakeSong with samurais. But as an example, they use the Korean Hwarangs, which are kind of like samurai, except they're Korean, and of course they have a different armor, design. But pretty much it's a warrior caste that's deeply dedicated to an honor code, and will be serving a higher ideal. And lastly, which is very interesting to me, was the warlock class, where they call them mambabarang, which is I'm not so familiar if there's an equivalent in, let's say, Indonesia or Malaysia, but the mambabarang is a witch or a hex, and they cast hexes on their enemies or the people who have wronged them, and even their hexes are all nature based. So most of the time these hexes take the form of swarms of insects that will just suddenly come out of people's mouths, ears, or these insects will just suddenly invade the person's field or house. So that's the kind of nature of hexes that the Mamba Barang has, and this obviously is inspired by the Filipino Mangkukulam or Mamba Barang. So this is really what's interesting about wake songs. How deeply rooted in the Southeast Asian cultures and even the African cultures, South American cultures, and it's obvious that they've done a lot of research. And the fact that the author also collaborated with people from the respective cultures whenever he dived into those, wanted to derive inspiration from those cultures, is a very, very good sign. And I think they've done it in a very respectable and very respectful way that actually is good for those cultures. And it is in no way offensive, or do I see it as a form of cultural appropriation of somebody trying to what do you call that benefit from the culture of others, because I think this is just a beautiful celebration of uh, various and different cultures, and I see it and appreciate it and appreciate what the author has tried to do. So to end this off, I'd like to congratulate the creators of Heroes of WakeSong for a successful Kickstarter and getting 1,263 backers. Uh, the Kickstarter's ended, but I think the book is going to be available through Drive Thru Review and probably through a downloadable PDF. Mm, so the Kickstarter, went as low as $6 for the PDF copy and $11 for a print-on-demand copy through Drive-Thru. So it's very affordable, and it would be easy for anyone to purchase a copy and support the author. And I think it's a very, very noble endeavor to introduce these cultures, my culture, into the world of tabletop RPGs. So it's not just about the Philippines; it's about the global, the rest of the world. So I think that's a very noble ideal and goal for the creator, and I support him strongly. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to, well, as of me making this review, I'm not sure how it's going to be sold or distributed. But going forward, I believe their next project would be a big book that's going to be about the monsters of WakeSong. And I guess I'll end this review with some more pictures of the other races or ancestries in WakeSong. Once again, thank you for listening. I hope you like this. Good day.